I am in 7th grade, and I'm very happy to be here and to be able to moderate this event. I am going to let Mr. Nolan introduce himself now.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Daniel Nolan. I'm a member of the Waccamaw Siouan Tribe, and I am the Chief Financial Officer at the Boys and Girls Home in North Carolina. So my undergraduate career is at Guilford College, and then my graduate degree is at UNCW. So go Seahawks. All right, back to you, Miss Sarah.
I would like to introduce Ms. Jacobs. So, Ms. Jacobs.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Hilary Jacobs, and I graduated from UNC Chapel Hill this past August. So go Seahawks, but also go Tar Heels. And I'm currently serving at Fairmont High School as a college advisor. So my day-to-day looks like helping high school seniors that wouldn't normally go to college, do applications and get scholarships and do Fafsa. So I'm excited to be here too.
Okay, so I will start off with our first question for Mr. Nolan. What inspired you to engage with the certain career that you chose?
Well, that's a great question, Sarah. So what inspired me was definitely just growing up in Buckhead and basically rural North Carolina. When I decided to go to college, I was initially going to play football. That's all I had on my mind was sports. Education was just a secondary aspect of that. But once I got to college, I was undecided. So I got the opportunity to take a couple of different classes and figure out my way. And one of the things that I always wanted to do was I wanted to know how money worked. That way, when I got in a position to have money, I would understand how it could work and how it could work for generations beyond me. So that really inspired me to go into accounting with a concentration in money and finance. So basically, I just wanted to know how to forecast out my future from a financially safe aspect, as well as, you know, hopefully set up generations behind me to have success. Thank you.
Thank you for that very fascinating explanation. Ms. Jacobs, so what inspired you to go to school for mathematics?
Yeah, so well, first off, I'm not really using my degree right now in mathematics necessarily, but I am using my experience that I went to college and working with first generation college students, trying to help them figure out what they want to do. I'm not a first generation college student. Both my parents went to college, but I did grow up in a rural area, like Daniel mentioned earlier. And so I found that in my experience going out of Columbus County or going to programs that weren't involved with my school, that a lot of times it felt like rural communities had less resources than larger communities. So I kind of just wanted to inform students in rural areas that there are opportunities outside of their community, that you're not just limited to things that are here. And then on the side, I work at as a pharmacy tech at a pharmacy. So math is used every day in pharmacy and dosages and like making sure that children especially get the right strength medicine. So with that, I like the math aspect as well as the science aspect of pharmacy. And then I also tutor on the side some kids, and I've always loved math. So helping kids understand math is fun for me.
Well, that was very interesting. So Mr. Nolan, how did you find out about the specific career field that you're in right now?
Well, I would say my career field is accounting and finance. And how I found out about those was through my educational tools, through school primarily. And then the more I just studied in school, I began to, apply accounting and finance to a broader aspect. And I realized I had an epiphany that, every company in America has a finance and accounting department. So I felt like it was a safe career choice for me in that regard. There would be jobs in the future in that industry. Specifically, where my career field took me is I have a concentration in investment management. So that really intrigued me from stocks and bonds, looking at the NASDAQ, all the graphs and the charts. I tend to like that and analyze that data. So it was just things that sparked my interest, and it just aligns. It so happened to align with my college degree, and thank God I got the opportunities to be where I'm at today. So,
Thank you. Ms. Jacobs, how did you find out about the career field that you're in right now?
Yeah, I think similar to Daniel, through college, you learn about different careers that you didn't really know existed, and you learn about the importance of careers that you kind of don't realize. Like you were saying, one of my friends is involved in kind of the business and finance aspect of the vaccine mandate or vaccine rollout. And so I think through college, I learned about the position that I'm in now. So I did a spring break trip to the Lumberton area, so Robinson County, for through Chapel Hill. They have a program called Apples, and so that's like their service initiation on campus. And I was introduced to the Carolina College Advising Corps, so that's how I found out about that job. And then with pharmacy, I just came to shadow a pharmacist just to see what it was like. And then I learned a lot about the different types of pharmacy, that it's not just retail, but also nuclear and clinical and pharmacology. So I would say to students that are trying to find out what you're interested in, be sure to shadow somewhere, because you might learn about something that you didn't even know existed. So yeah.
Thank you. Our next question is, Mr. Nolan, how difficult was your course of study to be where you are now?
That's a great question, Sarah. So, difficulty of my course of study, I would say it was fairly difficult. I was the type of student where I picked up on things relatively quickly, but as Hilary mentioned previously, rural areas tend to be left out in certain aspects from an educational aspect. And, math seems to be one of those heavy hit areas in rural communities. So when I've got to college, I had to get up to a baseline of where that college thought I should have been in that program. So for me, the course of study was difficult. There was, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of prayers. I know Miss Mabel said a lot of prayers for Daniel going through school. So it was very difficult, but I'm so thankful for my faith and my community and family for the support that they show me through this venture. I never felt alone in any of my scenarios. So it was always great to have that support system to accomplish the difficult task ahead. So even though it was hard, it was still achievable. And it just took a lot of personal drive and dedication to reach that goal. So thank you, Sarah.
So Ms. Jacobs, how difficult was your course of study?
Yeah, I think I would echo a lot of what Daniel said again. So I did struggle with my math classes. In high school, I took all of the math that was available to me, but our high school classes went up to pre-cal. Well, didn't have pre-cal, but Southeastern had pre-cal. So I took pre-cal with Southeastern. And then whenever I got to college, courses were a lot harder. So I kind of felt like learning over the high school years was kind of gradual. You increase a little bit grade by grade, but then in college, the rigor just shoots up, and it's kind of hard sometimes to keep up. But I started out as a pure math major, and then I briefly switched to applied math and then back to pure math. And I actually enjoyed the applied math courses more. One of the courses I took was Math 528. That was applications of differential equations. And so we did things like calculate population models and physical models like motion of planets and other solar bodies. And then with the applied math, it was a lot of physics. Mostly that's what your applied math things are going to be. So while I was taking Calc 3, I was also taking motion and relativity. So we talked about how to calculate the relative speed of an object, kind of like if you're standing on a train, you know, the train passes you, it feels faster than it actually is. We did some pendulum work, some rocket launching things, centripetal acceleration, so the path of the solar bodies in their orbits. And then we also took some MATLAB, so computer programming and math courses. So most of my courses were kind of difficult, especially after getting past that initial intro level math courses in college. But like Daniel said, I had a lot of support from my dad, my mom, and a lot of prayers. So even though it's hard, you can do it.
Definitely, and I just want to add another point to that. So thank you, Hilary, for jog my memory on this. But just the difficulty in the course of study shouldn't be the primary focus. It should be, for me, I'm an end result driven type of person. So I need to see that light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, going through, an undergraduate degree in accounting and finance, and then furthermore, a graduate degree in finance and investment management, for me, it was always that end goal in mind that I had to keep in set. And I had to just make lifestyle adjustments to make sure that I was on track to keep those goals. So definitely, I can say going to UNC Chapel Hill, you definitely had to have some discipline to get through that program. I know the rigors that you went through there. So I just want to, congratulate you, and also encourage everybody watching this video that, things are possible. You just have to, make a dedicated plan and be committed to that plan. So thank you.
Thank you both. So Mr. Nolan, what advice would you give a student that is considering a career in STEM?
Well, from a financial perspective and just a market trend, I think any career in STEM is, really the future. That T in technology, that's the big thing, that's booming right now. Just where we're at in the cusp of America, we're in a technology trend. We see that from now. We're doing this meeting via Zoom. So the trend's going to keep going. And with that, there's always going to be a constant need for people that know and understand the conceptions and can conceptualize all the implementations in their field of study. So in other words, there's always going to be accounting software, but there's always going to be somebody like me that's a little bit smarter than the software that knows, how to make sure it's doing its correct thing. Same thing with technology, engineering, math. Even though things become more automated with technology, there still has to be that person that has to be smarter than that machine. And I think personally for me, if any STEM career interests you, I recommend that you pursue it. Things may be hard, but not all things that come easy are worth it in the end. So my recommendation for anybody seeking a career in STEM is to just shoot for the stars. Break out your comfort zone. Don't be afraid for change. I know for me personally, I went off to college. I went off to a 4-year school, and that was probably the best decision I ever made in my life. I love my community. I love my family. But getting that exposure from a different cultural aspect definitely opened my mind to the possibilities of what my future could be. And at the end of the day, we're all in the driver's seats of our future. God's definitely helping us press that acceleration or that brake, but we're in control of our future. We can take the wheel and we can steer it any way we want. So I give that advice to anybody looking for a STEM career is, don't be afraid to branch out. Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to try new things.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. So Ms. Jacobs, what advice would you give to a student that's considering a career in STEM?
Yeah, I'll just first echo what Daniel said, that anything worth having, you have to work for. And also he brought up a really good point about how interconnected science and the technology, especially the technology and math, parts of STEM are, and even engineering and math. So the science, technology, and engineering is important, but really you need the math. You need somebody that knows how to do the data. A lot of math is data involved. Kind of what Daniel does is data involved. And I think that, not saying math is the most important, but it's pretty important because it's a part of all of them. So if you think you're interested in technology, I would say for sure, and I just thought about this, but take the most difficult math classes you can while you're in high school, while you're in the early years of your studies, because that's going to help you be successful in the technology and engineering parts later on. But I would also say just go for it. Like Daniel said, like go off to the 4-year school, even if it seems scary and you think you might be in over your head, just go ahead and do it, because in the end, if you work hard, I think you'll have a lot of success. And then also, whenever I was thinking about why students should be in the math field, I had a phase where I thought about doing a health program instead, which I still might end up doing that at some time, because I thought health was one of the only ways that you could be beneficial to the community, and how you could help others. But really, math is involved in everyday life as well. Math is just as helpful as health fields are. I mean, you kind of think about what Daniel does, and you think about people who do taxes and people who are accountants, and people can't not do their taxes or not know how to manage their money. So I think if you're considering pursuing math and you think, oh, I won't be helpful to other people, just get rid of that, because you'll be helping somebody if you know math. I mean, just imagine what the world would be like if we didn't have any numbers today. We would be highly confused people. But yeah, that would be my advice. Just go for it.
Yeah, that was well said, Hilary. Just kind of want to build on that point about math and just, related to everyday situation. I mean, what I do, there is math involved. Is the math super complicated? No, there are algebra. Mainly the math that I do is algebra based. So as long as I'm good at algebra, I can do everything that I need to do. But as far as math is really a building block on everything that we do in the world. Like, I'll give you an example, like a real world example. When I get my pay stub, I want to check and make sure it's correct. So I need to know how to do the math to make sure that I'm not getting cheated or anything like that. And just furthermore, just from a STEM standpoint, I think math specifically branches in the other fields that can be lucrative. I'll just give you a real world example again. So I just having some issues with the heater at my house, and just had a local contractor in here, and we were going over the AC and heat unit, and I was just amazed at how much math he had to do to be able to tell if my system's running correctly or not. So it's not just, don't be scared of the word math, because we use it every day. Mainly from what I do, it's more conceptual math. So yes, I have to know how to do the calculations. I have to, know how to get to the end number I'm wanting to get to and check it. But the main point is you have to understand the conceptual piece behind that. And I think that is a huge part in finance and accounting. It's more conceptual than math, and there's a language barrier in any type of field. It feels like you walk in different meeting rooms, there's 1,000 different acronyms depending on which room you go into. So don't be scared to try something different. I guess that's the main point in my spiel. So thank you, Sarah. I'll turn it back to you.
One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning is, if you have any questions, please put them in the live chat. Anyways, so Mr. Nolan, how many years did it take for you to get where you are today?
Well, I'm gonna say 30. But no, it took me educationally. I've went through about 8 years of undergraduate and postgraduate education. just from that standpoint, from a timing standpoint in my career, it's taken me about 10 years to get to where I am now. So I am super blessed in the position that I am in. Prior to that, it was just, the 4 or 5 years of grinding it out and trying to figure out which way and which field you want to go to. So when you do get that degree, that is a nice accomplishment, and it's definitely, something worth celebrating. But, after you get that degree, then you got to turn into the long run or the long race, and that's basically life and how you're going to apply and use that degree. So my recommendation is not necessarily, don't focus on how long it takes you to get to your end goal. We're all different. We all find different paths. I might take 2 steps forward, 3 to the left, 5 to the right, just to get to where I am. But ultimately, don't sweat the time it takes you to get to where you are. Be thankful, appreciate the journey and the process, and try to learn something along the way so you can apply it moving forward in the future. So thank you, Sarah.
Ms. Jacobs, how many years did it take to get where you are today?
Yeah, I'm not as old as Daniel. It took me, so I just graduated from my bachelor's. So bachelor's 4 years, took me 4 years. But before that, I was kind of doing things in high school along the way to prepare for going to college and to build my resume and seem impressive on those applications. So I recommend getting involved in something if you're not already. So probably the summer after my junior year is when I kind of started picking up on building my resume. And so I did governor's school for 6 weeks. It's a program through North Carolina. You have to apply for it your sophomore year, I believe. I can update you on that later. But and so I went for math. So for 6 weeks, I was with 60 other students who also loved studying math and found it interesting. And so there were no grades. We just got to be taught by people who love math as well. So I learned about some geometry. That was a lot more challenging than my high school classes were offering at the time. And what else did we learn about? A lot of things. I can find my notes, but it was incredible. And then I also did School of Science and Math online. So I didn't take any math classes with them. I was a little scared of those, but I did get to take some forensics classes. What else did I take? I took some classes about ecology. And then the 4 years in college, I switched back and forth between majors, but for the most part, I did math and some science courses. So my advice, if you're going to college, first of all, is have a minor. So you can do a major and a minor. So let that minor be something that you're really interested in. And then don't be scared, like Daniel said, don't be scared to try new things, to switch. If you decide you are not interested in something anymore, that's fine. It doesn't really matter how long it takes you to get to where you want to go, as long as it's where you want to go. So if you've started something, you say, I don't really like this anymore, then maybe change it up and try something different. I don't see a problem with switching interests throughout life because the world's so big and there's so many things to learn. So why just be stuck to one thing? So that's how long it took me. You get to 4 years-ish.
I agree with that, Hilary, and just want to point out, the world is different, so don't be afraid to try new things and branch out. I don't eat the same thing for dinner every single night, so that doesn't mean you have to, that means you don't have to do the same thing every single day for the rest of your life if you're unhappy and don't find pleasure in it. So definitely find something that you are interested in and just go from there. So I think we have some questions in chat. I just seen that pop up. So I think a question from the audience is, who has been your mentor along your career path and why? So I'll just go for me personally. So my personal mentor has been trial and error in that regard. I'm blessed for the support that I've received from my family and, those closest to me and around me. Without them, I couldn't have done this because, things do get hard, things do get complicated, and, you need that support system to help you along the way. So that's definitely helped me. As far as my career mentorship has gone, I just try to, pick the minds of people when I'm in a conference room or in a meeting at the end of the meeting. It's not always about being, the smartest in the room. For me, I personally know I'm not the smartest in the room, but I am smart enough to ask questions to the smartest person in the room. So definitely pick up on that free nugget of information along the way. As far as a dedicated career mentor, I would suggest that. I suggest that you reach out to somebody that you feel comfortable working with and want to learn more about their career to see if they're interested or have the capability to help you. I do suggest that. So as far as moving forward there, I'd say that would be a great area to start. It's finding a mentor.
Yeah, I'll jump into both my mom and my dad were super supportive of me going off to college. So I was blessed to have that. My dad is very good at math and technology and things like that. So growing up, he was typically the one that would help me with my math homework. So he made it bearable, I guess, to keep liking it. And then while I was in college, of course, I had professors that I really looked up to. A lot of their research was really interesting to me. And then with pharmacy, I just kind of knew people in the community that were pharmacists. Miss Amy is who I shadowed starting out. And so she was really inspirational how she was able to do medical mission trips. So use what she knew about health and science and medicine and take it to other countries. So yeah, I think as a whole, I mean, the whole community is really motivational that you're loved and supported here, and then you also want to go off and learn so that you can come back and contribute. So I think I've had a lot of mentors.
So there's another question from the audience that I would like to ask, and it was find it. This one isn't exactly related to STEM, but it's related to this. So who was like your greatest inspiration on your path here?
That's a good question, Sarah. So my greatest inspiration to my path was definitely my parents. I grew up in Buckhead, stayed there my entire life. A member of the community, and when you grow up in an area as special as we do, you don't really understand, or at least I didn't personally understand the, what wealth could be in that regard. So, growing up, I never went hungry. I always had the lights on. My family was great in that regard, but I seen my parents struggle. My dad worked 2 or 3 jobs. My mom worked a couple jobs, and I seen the way they worked to provide for my brother and sister and I just thought, man, there has to be a different way to do this. And how do I do this? And that kind of piqued my interest in how does money work? Because at the end of the day, we're all working for a paycheck. We need that paycheck for expenditures. But, how do I make my money that I earn work for me instead of me working for my money? Because there's a huge difference in financial leverage when you can get your money to start working for you. And, I can go on and give you guys that from a finance perspective, but I'll keep it short today. But ultimately, seeing my parents, work hard for everything they earned. I'm not saying that I don't want to work hard, but I don't want to work nearly as hard as they had to in that regard. But just all jokes aside, just seeing my parents and, wanting to put myself in a situation where, I can say I'm blessed, thank God. Like I grew up in a safe, stable home, and just to see the things my parents had to go through to provide for my parent or my brother, sister, and I, it was just, it moved me. It's like, how can I live my life a little bit differently and put my future generations in a position for success? Well, that for me, it boiled down to I need to learn how money works and how I can make money work for me. So it's not all about chasing a dollar. I want that dollar to push and propel me into the future. So personally, that was my greatest inspiration, was right at home, right in front of me. So thank you.
Yeah, I think you said that well. Because whenever you're talking about that, it can sound like that money is everything, but it's really not. I mean, I think you talked at the very beginning about stocks and things like that. And I would encourage anybody who's old enough to get involved in stocks and trading, invest in something and you'll see it grow. Daniel can teach you how to do that better than I can probably, but I think as far as my biggest inspiration, definitely my parents too. Just like they were always there at games and at programs that I had. My mom always told me you can do anything you put your mind to, just that inspiration. And now I get to take that to my high school students that I work with and echo the same thing that she said, really, that you can do anything that's, well, your situation impacts your path probably, and the struggles that you've had probably make it harder, but you can work really hard and move out of the current situation that you're in. So because they were really inspirational to me, I'm able to encourage my students that feel like they can't do it or have been told that they can't do something. I'm able to tell them that, yes, you can, here's what it's going to take, and encourage them that the work is actually worth it too. So.
Thank you both for your responses. About how lucrative are STEM careers?
So I'll go with this one. So just from a financial standpoint, they tend to be your highest paying, career field opportunities straight from entry level careers. I actually did not too long ago. My little cousin, I watched him build a computer, and I'm sitting here talking to him. I was like, why don't you want to go to school and do something like this? He was like, his response was a little sad to me. He didn't know he could. So I took the opportunity and I sat down. We went over all kinds of programs, and I broke the cost out of it because just stemming back to an earlier conversation with how long it takes you to get in your career and stuff like that. Well, at the end of the day, with education, there is a financial aspect to that. Student loans, things like that. You do have to be smart about how the path that you do take, but don't fret and don't feel bad to branch out and do something different. So I just want to go back and hit that point and circle. But ultimately, STEM careers are your more lucrative entry-level careers. They tend to have a higher pay scale. At the end of the day, you can easily break six figures getting into a STEM career. So especially in rural North Carolina, if you're blessed to find a position like I did close to home where I was able to move back, those are the things you want to see. That way you can be closer to your family, your community, and just be involved in that aspect. So for me, STEM careers are definitely lucrative in that idea. So thank you.
Yeah, I think too, outside of a financial aspect, if you're talking about profitable for the community, I mean, look at the pandemic we're in now, and you see the science that the scientists that developed the vaccine and learned about the virus are doing is extremely, very important. And then two, what was I going to say? Personally, for me, I profit in learning new things. So I profit in being able to read a scientist's research and learn something new about how the world works and how, like Daniel said several times, how money works. And it's honestly a blessing that we have the chance to learn things, that information isn't withheld from us, and that we can use the things that we learn to help society. So that's why it's profitable to me, on top of the money, I guess. So yeah, I think any STEM field that you go into is going to be extremely beneficial for yourself and others.
And I want to build on that, Hilary. I think you said it well. I mean, knowledge is power in that regard, and you can consider it as personal equity, because at the end of the day, if things go south, you'll never lose that knowledge that you gained. So that is an important aspect about a STEM career, is that you're learning something that it can stick with you and be applied throughout your life. So I think that's also a good point. So thank you for bringing that up. So
I do agree. Knowledge is power. We have a question from a chat, but it seems it's begging to be answered. So Mr. Nolan, can you comment on your time with the IRS?
Yes, I was that guy. I didn't work on the federal level. I worked on the state level. So I worked with the North Carolina Department of Revenue, and I worked there for a little over 6 years. That was when I first got out of school. I landed a job at BB&T, and from BB&T, I went to work for the state for about 6.5 years, if I remember correctly. Ultimately, it was a good beginner job for me in that regard. I learned a lot about money and taxes, so I definitely get those types of questions from my family all the time, so it's kind of great. I was actually, talking to my dad about some retirement things recently, that I just was able to apply some of the knowledge that I learned from there. But ultimately, working for the federal government in that capacity, I learned a lot of different things. And for me personally, it was, it was a great opportunity, because I was, that guy. I was an auditor, so I went around and audited businesses for business taxes. So what that did was gave me the opportunity to learn about countless different businesses, how they operate, how profitable they are, how hard am I going to have to work to, reach X amount of money. So ultimately, what that did was gave me the opportunity to understand various financial structures and financial models in that regard. And it's been extremely helpful in my transition to Boys and Girls Home, because right now I'm the chief financial officer at about a $20 million a year company. So we're not really a mom and pop shop anymore. I like to use the oxymoron. We're a large, small business in that regard. So it's helped me a lot in that regard, to just be able to weather, forecast, and predict, and actually budget out where we should be. So it's really helped me, and it's opened my eyes to, one of my ultimate goals is I want to start a business, and I talk to my wife all the time about it, and I keep hitting the same runway right now. And it's, I've looked at so many businesses, I don't know which one I want to run. So it's kind of, just an option of, finding what fits for you. I'm thankful that God blessed me with the opportunity with the state to learn about taxes and different businesses in that regard, because it's really opened my eyes to how not only do we need to know how money works for us, but we need to know how taxes work. I mean, that's, one of those given things in life that we can't really get around. And understanding the tax system and understanding the implementations of taxes ultimately helps drive decisions from a financial standpoint to me. Because at the end of the day, it's like one of those things, I think, you'll learn about this when you get a little bit older and have an hourly rate job. But once you get to 70, 80 hours in that, that pay cycle, it's really not worth it. It's kind of, you need to cap yourself at 60, because anything over than that, you're basically working to pay the federal government. And I don't know too many people that like to do that. But in that same regard, it's just a matter of, it was an opportunity for me to broaden my knowledge in the field of taxation and narrow it down to go into a realm of finance of where I'm at. So it was a great opportunity to get a good base for my, not only my educational aspirations, but it was a good base for me for my career in that regard. So it was a good opportunity, and I thank God for it. So thank you.
It's really cool. I'll jump in real quick. It's really cool that you had that opportunity, because now you can come back and share with people that would have never known that information. But I was just curious about how you got the job too. Like, did you do networking, or was it somebody you knew, or you applied and had the qualifications, or like, how'd that work?
Well, I'm just be flat up honest with you. Networking's not really my strong suit in that regard. I tend to kind of be that lone wolf. I kind of always have in my life, and it's worked out for me so far. I've just been reserved in that part of conversation, but in my career now, I have to be more social. So I'm learning. I'm getting there, and I'm learning the importance of networking. I don't want to downgrade that, but maybe Daniel took the hard path. It won't be the first time I've done that in my life, but I might have took the hard approach. And how I got that career was, I think I worked for the bank for a little over 6-7 months, and every day I went in, I didn't particularly like what I was doing, and it was just a lot of prayer, a lot of dedication, a lot of looking, a lot of searching, and when that door opened, thank God it opened, and I just walked through. So at the end of the day, for me, how I got that job was just, faith. I prayed for that job, and I prayed for where I'm at so many days. So that's just another aspect, and just a branch of life is just, don't take for granted about where you are today just because you had a bad day or it's tough. Because if you remember, or at least for me personally, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I prayed for this exact situation. And I think God equips, the ready in that regard. And, I'm just glad that he opened that door for me. So thank you.
So this is a question from the chat that either of you can jump in on. But so education is costly. So what advice do either of you have regarding scholarships and internships, and basically just all around ways to keep student loans down?
I can speak to this if you like first. So in my service, that's what I do. I help students who whose parents don't have the money to spend on their college education, but are really interested in going to college to better themselves, their community, contribute to their family. So the first thing that we always do is apply for Fafsa, so the free application for federal student aid, and that works directly with the IRS. We pull information, or Fafsa pulls information from their taxes, and offers what's called the Pell Grant. So to that question, I would say, first of all, if you haven't done your Fafsa, you need to do it tonight. You need to do it yesterday. If you're planning on going to college and haven't done your Fafsa, that's a must. Some schools require it. In Texas, it's actually a requirement for graduation. So that's how important it is to do your Fafsa. And then secondly, we understand that some families make in between that sweet spot of making too little and making enough to pay. And at that point, we do apply for scholarships. To keep it honest, I say apply for the institutional scholarships first, so the scholarships that the schools offer to you. And then also, if you do take out a loan, it's important that you know the difference between a subsidized and unsubsidized loan. So a subsidized loan is going to not accrue interest while you're in school. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure I've got those right. Subsidized and does not accrue interest while you're in school. Unsubsidized will accrue interest while you're in school. That's another reason it's important in math, because you need to know how interest rates work. So whenever you have a job, if you plan to get a job right after high school, You're going to need to know how they calculate your taxes, and if you open a credit card or something, you're going to need to know how interest rates work, and that's all math. So that's what I would say. Those are my 3 tips financially. Know the difference between the types of loans you're taking out. Make sure your interest rates aren't super high. Try to calculate, okay, how far in advance am I going to have this loan hanging over me? How many years with my with the job that I'm going to have is it going to take to pay off this loan? And then fill out your FAFSA and do the institutional scholarships. Somebody asked why those first, and that is because the school has access to your financial aid information. And so they see your taxes, and they also have access to your GPA. They tend to be able to offer more scholarships, especially to in-state students. So that's why I always say apply to those first. The like local scholarships are great, so apply to those local scholarships too, but typically there are less of those to give out. That's usually like an organization that has a couple $1,000s they're going to designate to a college student. So I always say apply to the institutional ones first, because that's going to be like your gift aid. And also there's, Ms. Ashley's telling us the United Tribe scholarships are due January 31st. So.
And I'm gonna just pick up where Hilary left off. I think she did a great job explaining the different loans, because I'll just be honest with you guys, that one of the things I didn't know about that I'm finding out about now at this point in my life. So that's great information. Definitely pay attention to the loans, the interest rates, and my suggestion would be figure out the right path for you. If you're not, you want to just dip one toe in the water, education has just come a long way, and there's nothing wrong with starting at a 2-year school and going to a 4-year university, or just taking your time in the real world, kind of figuring out what you want to do in life and going for that dream and aspiration at a later point in time. I'll relate myself to that, because I got out with my undergraduate degree, started working for the bank, started working for the state, and it wasn't until about 4-ish years into the state that I realized, hey, I want to go get my master's degree in finance, because I want to do a little bit something a little bit differently than what I'm doing currently. So that was definitely a kind of a segue point in my life and going to grad school in that regard, because I'm just be upfront and honest, education is a financial commitment. Definitely take up on those grants and scholarships. My suggestion as well, I know there's a lot of athletes in Buckhead and surrounding communities. Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid. Go to a tryout. You might get a walk-on scholarship or something like that. So definitely put yourself out there. Don't be afraid of different opportunities. Also, I just can't stress the importance enough, and I referenced it earlier in the Zoom, but Hilary hit on it, just the interest rates and what types of loans that you're taking out. And my ultimate goal is that, you got to have that end goal in mind. So, look up Glassdoor, look up, ZipRecruiter or something like that, and look up different career fields and a location that you think you would want to be in, and just see what are those jobs paying for. Is it worth my return on investment? I mean, from an equity standpoint, you would definitely get the knowledge and obtain that from a lifetime. But at the end of the day, I mean, you can try to eat a book, but it probably wouldn't be good for you. You have to make sure that your return on investment is going to set you in a best situation for success moving forward. So, thank you.
So I am going to do a final call for questions and comments, and also a reminder that the virtual Wigwam challenge, the prize is a $1,000 scholarship and awards. So just putting that out there.
Also, I'll make this last comment about college access and things like that. If you know in like 8th grade or something that you're planning on going to college, I would encourage you to start saving for college then. The earlier you can start saving, the better. I believe it's called a 504 plan, question mark. I'll have to look that up. But there's something out there that helps you save for college.
I think it's 543B plan.
Oh,
That's
okay.
a college savings plan, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Yes, do that for sure. If you know that that's, and it's an investment. I mean, think of your education as an investment in yourself. You're not just spending, hold on one second. You're not just spending money to spend money, you're spending it because it's going to benefit you in the future. So.
Okay, so thank you for that. Does anyone have any other comments about this?
I do have one final comment for the group. Ultimately, STEM careers are great. I found myself in one now. I would recommend and suggest it if it's for you and your right path. I mean, ultimately, we all have different, end goals in mind, and we all have different areas of studies that pique our interest. So definitely, if STEM career for you, I think that's great. If it's not for you, that's great as well. Just definitely find your interest and just think about the concepts of what type of lifestyle I want to have when I reach the age. What type of home do I want to have? What type of car do I want to drive? Like all those different things now, because when I was a student, I didn't really think about those types of things. Daniel's mind was just on sports, and that was about it. And like, if you can start having those conversations, or at least kind of mapping out, seeing which areas or fields that I might want to go into, the earlier you can do that, I feel the quicker you may be able to find your passion. So definitely start now.
So I believe that that's all, because no one else has any other comments. Those are
That's all. Thank you.
okay.